Welcome everybody, welcome on YouTube as well. So today we'll have the second match for actually Santiago de Chile, and this is a start as well for the team from Tilburg. So they are in the same group, and there are 3 universities, that's why. And today we'll have a match indeed between Tilburg University and Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile, which is counting for the group phase of the Inter-University Law Debate Tournament organized by the Corax Foundation. So today we'll have the 2 teams, so one is complete already here in the room, and as well the second one is getting complete with a second member. We have as well professors and as well persons who helped actually to promote this event. So I would like to give the floor to already my colleagues, and afterwards, of course, it will be as well to the rest of the participants. So maybe Miss Urbanova?
Thank you, Mr. Laurent, and good morning and good afternoon to the participants. It's a pleasure to have you in the round 2 of the Hague Inter-University Law Debate Competition. Best of luck for your debate. I'll give soon floor to my colleague, Mr. Mustafa, who's also an editor-in-chief of our publishing platform, The Hague International. But just a quick tip for the speakers today. We have a small support for you in terms of timekeeping. So when you have 30 seconds left, you will see this from my video stream. And when your speaking time is up, you will see a red placard. For this purpose, we would advise you to keep the call in the gallery view. And once more, best of luck for today's match, and passing the floor to Mr. Mustafa.
Yes, thank you for the floor. Hello, everyone. It's good to see you here. My name is David Mustafa. As it was noted, I am the editor-in-chief of The Hague International, and of course, it's my pleasure to be your host today. We will start with the introduction of all the team members, participants. Once everyone is here, I see that the member of the Pontificia University of Chile has joined already. So we can start with introductions. Okay. All right. So I would like to invite each member of the team, of each team, to introduce themselves briefly, as well as state the name of their university that they're representing. So I would like to start with Mr. Jimenez.
Okay, so my name is Emmanuel Jimenez. I'm a law student of the Pontificia Universidad Católica of Chile. I lived in Viña del Mar all my life, and I had to travel to Santiago to study in the university I'm studying in. And I'm very happy to be part of this competition.
Yes, thank you. Proceeding with Mr. Zhang.
Thank you. I'm Andy Zhang. I'm a first-year student in global law at Tilburg University, and I feel very excited to be here today.
Thank you. We'll go with Mrs. Hope.
Hey everyone, I'm a law student too at Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile. I'm in my 4th year, so I'm almost finishing, and I'm really excited to be here too.
Great. Now I would invite Mr. Hosokawa. I'm not sure if we can hear you correctly.
Yeah, the microphone is a bit... No, not very well. I don't know if you are in the same room than your colleagues. Maybe it could be good that you share maybe the same camera if indeed we cannot hear you very well. No, we don't hear very well. We see you, but we don't hear very well.
Slight improvement.
My name is Radman Falchikova. I'm a first year global law student at Tilburg University. Sorry for the inconvenience, but I'm looking forward to this debate.
No problem. All right, then I would like to invite the third representative from Tilburg University, Mr. Fansavi.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Rami Fransawi. I'm also a first-year global law student at Tilburg University. I'm from Lebanon. I grew up in the United Arab Emirates, and yeah, I'm excited for this debate.
Great. Now I will run a short round of introductions for the coaches or the assistants of the universities, starting with Professor Saad.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jorge Sad. I'm professor at law school and also the director of the Center for International Studies at the Catholic University.
Thank you. Now I would like to invite Mr. Telemans for an introduction.
Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon. My name is Leonard Telemans, and I'm a global law student at Tilburg University, and I look forward to this debate.
Good. All right. Thank you, everyone, for the introductions. It's nice to meet you. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Larange, who will now draw the positions for the match.
Yes, thank you very much. So I will remind the topic that you got to prepare for 10 days, which was renewable energy production must be favored, for example, by tax regulation over non-renewable production methods. So you have two positions, and now I will share my screen so you will see live which position you will get during this debate. So you will see a wheel spinning slowly with, as you can see, two possibilities in favor and against for each team. So we'll just click and we'll know which position you will have. So for this match, Tilburg University will defend the position against the motion, meaning that Tilburg will defend that renewable energy production must not be favored, for example by tax regulation over non-renewable production methods. And as opposition, the university in Chile will be defending the position that renewable energy production must be favored. So from now, my colleague will show you a timer of 5 minutes, and you will have 5 minutes to review your notes. You can close your camera if you wish, and your microphone, and in 5 minutes we will start the match.
Okay, so the time has run out. Now we can start with the introduction. So I would like to invite the representative from the Chile University to start. You have 4 minutes of time. Good luck.
Okay, greetings to everybody. Beforehand, I would like to thank the organizers and everybody connected in this debate. My name is Emmanuel Jimenez, and my partner's name is Esperanza Hope. Without a doubt, climate change represents an enormous long-term threat to global ecosystems and the world's economy. Many countries are trying to fight this issue in one way or another. We think that the current focus is not necessarily the best one. We should strive for a more sustainable, clean, and reliable future in which energy production can supply our needs without any setbacks related to production, and at the same time the greenest way possible. What we think is that renewable energy production must be favored over non-renewable energy. Firstly, renewable energy takes advantages of the country's own nature without generating a significant impact on the ecosystem. It can be placed almost anywhere. The sun and wind are present in every part of the world and will never cease to exist. This has two benefits. On one hand, it helps countries become less dependent on others, as the need of fossil fuels will eventually be a thing of the past. And recent events, such as the war in Ukraine, has made the need for this crystal clear. We can see how this has affected the European Union when Russia threatens to cut gas supplies or blackmail countries that depend on the fossil fuel market. On the other hand, remote towns and communities can be empowered by micro generations, which is a way to use renewable resources to a minor scale, like installing solar panels on buildings, rooftops, or small wind turbines, and in consequences, decentralizing the power grid. But to achieve this, funding and incentives are vital. Secondly, we are not saying that we should shift totally towards renewable energy sources because this is not currently possible. However, governments should shift their public policies towards this type of energy, since fossil fuel dependency will only continue to make the current climate crisis worse. According to the US Environmental Protection Agency, electricity production generates the second largest share of greenhouse gas emissions. And in the US, approximately 62% of the electricity electricity comes from burning coal and natural gas. Thus, we must seek a way to create incentives for private business, such as cutting their tax burden or subsidizing them. Furthermore, this is harmonious with the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, especially goal number 7, which is geared towards affordable and clean energy. Thirdly, a good thing about green energy is that it can permeate to other industries, helping sort the climate crisis not only in the production of domestic energy, but also by powering industries such as the aviation, maritime, and terrestrial transport, and so on. An example of this is the power given by green hydrogen, which is a novelty in the energy industry. It consists by using hydrogen from the hydrolysis of water, which can be stored like a gas, but with an inexistent carbon footprint. An issue with the renewable industry is that it needs batteries. It has the need for batteries. It makes its commercial aviation unavailable because of the size of the battery would add too much weight to the. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for your submissions. We will now proceed with the representative from Tilburg University, who will argue against the statement. You have 4 minutes.
Okay. I stand upon my desk to remind myself that we must constantly look at things in a different way. This iconic Robin Williams quote embodies our approach to today's debate. Ladies and gentlemen, or honorable judges, today we implore you to examine the topic of the debate from an alternative, unorthodox lens. As the opposition, we're in full recognition of the fact that climate change is a very real and pressing environmental, social, and economic issue. However, while acknowledging this, we also have very real concerns about the premise that renewable energy production must always be favored over non-renewable energy. And our concerns also tie back to environmental, social, and economic issues which will inevitably arise from the implementation of such an idea. Ladies and gentlemen, just as Robin Williams drove his students to consider alternative perspectives and to think critically about the world when he said the aforementioned quote, we urge you to look at this issue from an alternative lens focused on radical equality. Let's take a step out of the realm of hypothetical debates and take a look at an example from the real world, which begins to illustrate our opposition to the debate premise. On the 23rd of March, 2022, UK Finance Minister Rishi Sunak announced a cut to fuel taxes worth about $6 billion. And the intention behind this move was to mitigate the hit that the standard of living has taken in the UK in recent months. In other words, fuel taxes were cut to alleviate the disproportionate effect such taxes have on lower income people. In fact, this is reinforced by research from Stanford University, where researchers used a $15 carbon tax as a scenario and found that households in the lowest income group pay more than twice as a percentage of their income what households in the highest 10% of the income distribution pay. In the end, this boils down to basic economics. All people, poor or rich, have a set of basic necessities which must be fulfilled, many of which, such as heating, car petrol, electricity, etc., involve the use of fossil fuels. If the price of these necessities rise, this will inevitably take a greater financial toll on poorer people. Keeping in mind that this is a legal debate, we must now look at our international legal framework for guidance. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Louise Arbour said in 2006, "We reaffirm that freedom from want is a right, not merely a matter of compassion." This assertion that freedom from want or freedom from poverty is a human right is again reaffirmed in international law. Article 22 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone, as a member of society, has the right to social security and is entitled to realization. Article 25 of the same declaration states everyone has the right to standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care, and necessary social services. This position under international law, establishing the freedom from poverty as a human right, is also reinforced under Articles 9 to 11 of the ICESCR, Article 5 of the International Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, Article 55 of the UN Charter, and many other international treaties that we now consider jus cogens. In essence, our view is that blindly saying that we must tax non-renewable fossil fuel products for environmental reasons fails to take into account the social and economic ramifications of such actions, especially on lower income portions of our societies. This is the alternate lens we urge you to view the issue from today. The example of the fuel tax cut in the UK is simply one single embodiment of our many concerns with the debate premise. Today, my distinguished colleagues will explore the concept of encouragement rather than enforcement, the issue of the unfair detriment to economic growth such policies could have on developing countries, and the threat to national sovereignty such policies could pose. Today, we expect the proposition to discuss the looming threat that the environment and the action we must take, such as favoring economically renewable energy. However, our position is that if such policies are aimed to secure the environmental future of human societies, must we not address the very real and economic and social threats that such policies pose to our societies today? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your submissions. We will now proceed with the first round of rebuttals. So I would like to invite the representative from the Chile University to give their first round of rebuttal. You have 2 minutes.
As I said before in the debate, the use of renewable energy can be made in big scale and can also be in smaller scales. In regarding of what my fellow said, the other team said, this can affect, of course, families' economies, and it can affect, obviously, the more poor people. But with the solution we're giving here, that is funding and incentivizing a economy that gives a power generation to a cellular way, in a cellular way, that is in every house individually, that can make also a economic boost to those families that are economically vulnerable. So that wouldn't be an argument to be against renewables energy, because it can be applied directly to those families that have economic struggles in their countries. Also, it is worth mentioning to say that renewable energy can also close the gap between rich and poor countries. And what am I saying here is that it is known that gas and petrol are large sources of income for nations that sell these resources. But if every country can support their own energetic needs, then these states wouldn't be have to buy raw materials with the prices that are inflated with these fossil fuel exporters. So yeah, in the long term, it would be better for families and society as a whole. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your submissions. We will now proceed with the representative from Tilburg University with the first round of rebuttal for them. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. First and foremost, am I clearly audible and visible? Okay, thank you very much. The opposition wants to react to the opening statement made by my distinguished colleague on the other side. They have mentioned the potential economic benefits of their proposal. However, this doesn't necessarily have to be true. We see in the debating statement the word must, and we have a problem with that word because must implies a compulsory constraint and restriction upon states to freely develop their own energy policy or economic policy, for instance. And we are of the opinion that such constraints can be considered a violation or constraint of the right to self-determination formulated in Article 1.1 and Article 47 of the International Covenant on Civil Political Rights, which formulates that the right to self-determination, by virtue of that right, each people have a right to freely economically develop their own policies. This view is also supported and reaffirmed by many nations which economies are currently developing and also heavily reliant on natural resources in General Assembly Resolution 1803, also known as the Permanent Sovereignty Principle, which they have formulated that every single nation with regards to natural resources have a right to freely expose and make use of their natural resources over their national in the name of their national interests, if that is conflicting with other priorities with regards to economy. Therefore, based on the principles of right to self-determination and sovereignty, and that apparently conflicting with this debating statement, we ask the jury to vote against the debating statement. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your submissions. Now we will proceed with the second round of rebuttals. I would like to invite the representative from the Chile University to present their arguments. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, so the right of self-determination is not an absolute right. We can see that in climate crisis, human rights abuses. We can see that countries cannot do what they want to do all the time because there is not an absolute right. Because for example, climate crisis is not something that affects only the country that is using energy, for example, fossil fuels. Also, the whole world gets engaged with this problem. So more like we don't have to see it, the problem like it is only a country problem, but more of a global problem that we have to solve if we want to survive to this climate crisis. So yes, regarding the right of self-determination, that's basically not correct. So in the other hand, we can see that of course the people have the right to determine if they want to have a solar panel in their roof or not. But the thing is that because of what I said later, there is a bigger good that is surviving in this climate crisis, and people have to understand why governments are giving the chance to make it profitable for them, also by understanding that there is a problem and we have to engage it. So basically that. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for your submissions. I invite the representative from Tilburg University for your second round of rebuttals. You have the floor.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
You have to speak loud.
Am I audible?
Perhaps if you bring the laptop closer, just like your colleague did, maybe we could hear you better.
Audible. Yes.
Yes.
I would like to mention some of the challenges that posing regulations on, I don't know, the issue to incentivize the replacing the fossil fuels with renewable energies bring about. Some of these challenges include the very fact that, for example, the aforementioned example that my colleague brought about in the opening statement, the UK still used fuel taxes in 2022, which are a form of energy taxes, which are a much simpler and affordable way to incentivize less use of fossil fuels than, for example, carbon taxes, which target emissions per se. So the developing countries that are there in the world outside of the developing countries, they cannot really go and pursue other measures that target emissions or the more effective measures. For example, consider the example of the federal highway bill from the United States in 2005, where they were trying to incentivize mixing biofuels that are derived from biomass with fossil fuels in various industries, and by doing so, they actually incentivize industries that are relying 100% on biomasses and biofuels to actually mix their fuels with fossil fuels to get that tax credit, the 50 cents per gallon of fossil fuels that they mix with biofuels. And that led to $8 billion in the paper industry being wasted in tax credits. So this is a very elaborate issue that many countries, many developing countries, could not simply afford to implement. Thank you for your consideration.
Yes, thank you for your arguments. Now I would like to start the conclusion round. So I would like to invite the representative from Chile University to give their conclusion. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. Our counterpart has made a great point that using renewable energies and privileging renewable energies over non-renewable energies can have a big cost. And yes, investments have cost, but that is what it is, an investment. We think the world must move forward. Green energy, renewable energy cannot happen in one day. And as we said before, that is not what we are proposing. The world moves around incentives. And incentives are made through legal mechanisms. It does not mean that you are affecting the right to self-determination of a country. It just means that you're creating the environment to have the economy grow and move forward into a new form of into the new form of use of resources. These are renewable energies. As we have said before, this cannot happen in a day, and it will be incredibly useful, and it will be a great benefit for our planet, not only when it comes to the climate crisis and solving the climatic problem we have nowadays, but it's also related to the economies and closing the branch between rich and poor countries. This is self-determination. Countries getting the advantage of exploiting their own resources. We can see it every day. In our country, Chile, investments in the last year have risen when it comes to clean energies like green hydrogen, as we've said before. It can also help transportation. And it's not only about the environment, it's not only about the emissions, it is also helping the economy. That is how investments work. So thank you very much. We think the world must move forward.
Yes, thank you very much for your conclusion. Now I would like to invite the representative from Tilburg University to give their own conclusion. You also have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. The opposition wants to react to the remarks and statements made by the distinguished colleague on the other side. they have mentioned that their proposal is aimed to minimize, for instance, emissions, which is good for the climate, I think, that I heard. The problem, however, is that government intervention and the imposition which this proposal implies isn't necessarily productive to their cause. It can be counterproductive even, and it's seen, for instance, by a World Bank report made 2 years ago, which analyzed the situation in Peru, for instance. The World Bank had a policy which aims to minimize the use of gasoline as a fuel for trash burning, for instance. But we've seen that after the World Bank has, in a joint mission with the Peruvian government, seeing that they tried to increase the price of gasoline, people reverted back to using illegal and more harmful alternatives for trash burning, such as tire burning, which is even worse for the climate. So we, from the opposition, aim to also look to alternatives and not try to mandatorily impose policies which are potentially counterproductive. Ladies and gentlemen, to sum up everything that has been stated so far by our side of the debate, my distinguished colleague, Rami, has formulated that there are certain problems with regards to this proposal, with regards to existing, with regards to the existing legal framework, but also certain social and economic factors. My colleague Rodmeer also stated that there are certain economic problems and maybe even counterproductivities with regards to such policy. I also have elaborated upon that point, as well as elaborated upon the point with regards to self-determination as well as sovereignty. And based on these factors, we are of the opinion that the jury should vote against this debating statement, and we hope that they also agree with this conclusion. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That concludes the match. Thank you very much to everyone for your insightful deliberations. And perhaps now it's time to reflect on your performance. I would like to invite all the team members, all the participants, to perhaps give a short summary of their opinion on the match. Could be their own personal opinion on themselves or on the opposing team performance. So let's start with Mr. Jimenez.
Yes, it was a very entertaining match. This was a very good experience. I got a little bit I don't know, surprised by how you engage your position. I thought you were going to talk about, for example, nuclear power. So it was very interesting to going against something I wasn't prepared of. So it was very entertaining. Thank you.
Thank you. Going forward with Mr. Zhang.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it was a very exciting debate. I thought it was very insightful. It allows us to look at this issue with certain perspective, which I myself haven't really thought upon. For instance, there are arguments that certain forms of renewable energy is also very good for the economy, which is most of the times used against that position. Is very interesting to see. So I really enjoyed it.
Great. Okay, Mrs. Hope.
Thank you. Yes, it was a very interesting debate. We can tell the opposition was very prepared, and they had great arguments and great data, and that was really interesting to see how to prove the cost the renewable energies can have in the economy. So yeah, it was really interesting, and I learned a lot. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Josso Javar.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry if I had audio problems. That was unprecedented. I don't know, my AirPods just started acting up today. Sorry.
It's no problem. It happens all the time. And finally, Mr. Fransavi.
Yeah, for me, it was also a very interesting debate. I did the opening statement, so that was something I could practice before and perfect. But I was really impressed by how everyone on both sides were able to bounce the rebuttals off each other very quickly on the spot. So it was really fun to watch.
That's good to hear. Okay, perhaps the coaches can also give an opinion. We can start with Professor Saad.
Thank you, Professor Mustafa, and congratulations for your interventions, both the students from Chile and the rest of the world. And I hope you can keep learning about these experiences, because in the future, when you will be becoming lawyers, these kind of skills are very important for your profession.
Thank you so much. Mr. Telemans?
Yeah, I agree with everyone that it was a very interesting debate and a very important discussion as well about climate change and climate equity as well. And I hope that our leaders are having the same discussions that we had here today.
Yes, hopefully. All right. Well, it was a pleasure to see your match. I will also give the floor to the organizers, Mr. Lorange and Mrs. Urbanova, to give some final remarks. But before I do that, let me remind you that the Hague International has opened its call for submissions. So if any of you is interested in further pursuing this discussion that you already had today, in the writing form, of course, you are warmly invited to do so. We will give some details on our website. You can take a look at the call for submissions. And yes, if you're interested in writing and, of course, exploring this topic even more, feel free to do so. Our team would be more than happy to read your submissions. And, of course, subject to the selection process, your article could be published. So, yeah. Now I can give the floor to the organizers. Mr. Orange?
Yes, thank you very much. So indeed, a very interesting debate. Congratulations to both teams as well, because you demonstrated you did a lot of research and as well to look on both sides. So that was very insightful on that aspect. Yes, so in 2 weeks will be, of course, the last match of the group phase. So it means at that time we'll know, of course, after assessing this match and the last one, which teams in the group will go to the 8th of finals. So for example, for this match, we will receive the results after the weekend. So we'll ask the three judges to, of course, provide their forms as soon as possible. And then we'll send by email, as you got already, for the first match, Santiago. But this time, both teams, you will get, of course, the forms in your email box after the weekend and with the feedbacks, which can help you, of course, for the next match. So yes, that's what I could tell. Maybe Miss Urbanova as well?
Yes, thank you, everyone. Well done. Good job on preparation for today's match. It was very visible in your arguments, and very much looking forward to the next match that will be happening on day 3 for your group. And of course, look forward to the announcements that will be happening next week. And also on the social media, in your inboxes, you will receive direct feedbacks from the judges and scores. And on social media, the announcement of the results for the whole round will be published as well. Okay. Good job, and best end of the week, everyone.
Yes, have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.